Welcome to part two. We're going to be making our adjustments from the toile and turn it into a pattern. So here I'm just going to look at the side seams where I've pinned it, and I'm making some markings on the sides where the pins were. And then we mark where our sleeve sat. We already did some markings on the body when Emma had it on, so I'm just making sure that when I put the sleeve it matched up with those lines and making sure they're dark enough so I can see them when I unpick it. Now we're going to flip it over and do those same markings on the back side panel. That line will eventually blend into the waist side seam. Now I noticed when I looked at it here, we didn't really need to do those shoulder darts because Emma doesn't really have a rounded back or anything. So what I've decided to do was take all that I pinned and take it off the centre back. So we'll mark all those markings there just to see how much we need to take out. The waist dart will still be there, just all that excess that goes up to the shoulder won't be there. We'll take that off the centre back. Marking the waist, a little W there just to mark it so we know what that was. We can start unpicking the shoulder seam. Using a nice big stitch and a heavy cotton means you can just rip these seams. Unpick the side seam as well. I'm just smoothing out this curve on the front armhole, marking and redoing those lines on the side seam, blending it into the existing stitching line. The existing stitching line under the arm stays, but we're taking it in across the shoulder. Undo that princess panel seam. Once we've got it all unpicked, then we can take it to the iron before we start trimming anything off. It's easier to work when it's nice and flat. Rip, rip. So I've got that ready to iron. Got our center panel, center front panel ready to iron. I'm pinning it here to make sure that the markings I did on that right side match the ones that I did on the left side. Yep, they seem to match, so we're good to go. Unpick the sleeve and take out that easing thread that I did at the top of the sleeve head. And remark that center point at the top of the sleeve. On the back, we need to take our pinned amount and take it off the center back. That will blend in to that seam down the bottom there. Undid the dart so I can measure how much that was. So I'm measuring that and then marking it over there. That's how much I'm chopping off. The line I'm marking is the seam line, which is another 2 centimeters in from there. I use a 2 centimeter center back seam. Now we unpick the dart to remark the dart that we want to use. The waist was a little bit higher. Grab our pencil, mark our dart again. After you've stitched it, sometimes the pencil disappears a little bit, so I'm going to remark it stronger so you can see it. Just checking what I've cut off there is the right amount. Draw our dart back in. Yes, I pointed out a lot. So the other half of the back that has still got all its pins in, I'm just saying, yeah, that's exactly how much we took off the center back. The back is the correct width now. That's all ready for ironing. Right, nice flat pieces we're working with now. I'm going to trim off the excess off the center back. See, the amount I cut off is exactly the width of the dart. It matches all the way down. Need to reshape that back neckline because we've taken some off the center back. We need to take some off that back neckline at the shoulder as well. So matching up the panel with all the pinned parts in, trimming it off. Redrawing that shoulder seam to eliminate the shaping that was there for the dart. Before I do that, I'm checking the shape of the neckline and the armhole. Checking that that line is smooth. Can't have it going to a point. keeping that neckline nice and smooth as well. I'm pinning it together this time because I want to cut that armhole shape all in one. This way you get a nice smooth line. Trim off the side seam. Nice and smooth. We'll pin that side panel on just to make sure that everything stayed smooth in that armhole. And it looks pretty good. As it is, because quite often commercial patterns don't have enough ease in that sleeve head. So if we need to adjust that, we can do that at the making stage. We've got our back, our centre front. Push out those dark lines, you don't need that. Trim that off. Be nice and smooth. That's our back panel ready to go. The back neck looks a little bit high, so I'm just going to trim that down a little bit. Just check that it looks smooth and flows nicely from the front to the back. Yep, looks good. There's our side panel. And our sleeve. Now we can make. We also need to make some little back and front neck facings. So what I do is I place it on the edge of the paper. Trace around it. It's really pretty easy to make a facing. Except you can't see it in pencil, so I'm going to grab the pen, trace around. When you are in the shops looking at dresses next time, have a look and see where the back neck facing sits in relation to the front neck. When it's on the hanger, sometimes they will put the facing going way down here like a big bib, but they do that because when you've got it sitting on the hanger, the front neck fills in that space. I'll show it to you after I've done this front here. So I put the center front of the dress on the edge of the paper. Trace around again. Smooth those dotted lines out. Our facing is about 6 centimetres wide at the shoulder, so that's what I'm measuring there. Just curve it around. It only needs to be about that wide all the way around. Just mark that piece goes on the fold. Once those facings are cut out, I'll show you what I meant before. Having the back facing sitting low like a bib means that when it's on the hanger, it presents nicer than having a raw edge of a facing showing. So imagine your little label sitting there, and then imagine the seam allowance for the zips taken up there, and just how that label sits nicely framed by the front neckline. And we're done.